Firstly, let me thank Khaki Tours for giving this wonderful opportunity to talk to the wonderful people from Mumbai and around. And since you mentioned about heritage, let me just take a few seconds on my association with heritage. So when the heritage regulations were passed in Mumbai in 1995, I think the first building that was restored was Hamachan Mansion, which is near Regal, where Jet Airways office was there. And the second building was contractor building that was owned by Shapoorji Pallonji. And I was the project head for that project, and that was my idea to restore the building. And the building is still restored. And interestingly, the Mr. Contractor comes from the family who built the Gateway of India. So that was a connection with our heritage structure. So I thought I'll share with you. And so now we start on our presentation, and I'll now share the screen. So Mughal-e-Azam, the making, the memoirs, and the musical. So Mughal-e-Azam is not just about a film. It's about a saga that started 100 years back. And just before I start on the saga, let me tell you that we today have people from the family of K. Asif also here. His daughter, Shabana Asif, his grandson, Zia, is here, and his nephew, Mr. Cookie from Lahore, also is with us in this talk. And Mr. Cookie's son, name also is Asif, named after Mr. K. Asif. So they are all here during the presentation. Okay. So the saga of Mughal-e-Azam started 100 years back, exactly in 1922, with two independent events. The first was the penning down of story of Saleem and Anarkali by Sayyid Imtiaz Ali Taj, who was a great play writer, and the birth of K. Asif. The former event happened in Lahore. The second one happened in Etawah, Uttar Pradesh. In case some of you have confusion, the story of Saleem and Anarkali is a fictitious story, and on a historical plot. So this format has been used, in many other stories also, including the popular English film Titanic, in which there's a historical plot, but the love story is fictional. So that was the format that was used in this play, and the play was, of course, called Anarkali. Yeah, so the play Anarkali was very successful as a radio play. If you have, as many of you must have seen or heard on the Akashwani or Vivid Bharati, Hawa Mahal in 1970s and 80s, that was the kind of radio play that Anarkali was, and it was a super hit play. So Mr. K. Asif saw the theatrical version of the play, and he felt that this subject requires much bigger scale, which theater did not have that time. So he felt that the right platform for this kind of a script is cinema. So with that vision, he came to Mumbai in early 1940s. And then he met a person called Sheikh Shiraz Ali Hakim. Now, Mr. Shiraz Ali Hakim was a man who wanted to do a lot of things in cinema. He wanted to produce films, he wanted to make studios, audio studios, recording, everything he wanted to do. He had a big vision, he wanted to become like an MGM of India in those days. So in 1944, K. Asif started Mughal-e-Azam along with Sheikh Shiraz Ali Hakim. And this film had a star cast in which Chandra Mohan was Akbar, Nargis was Anarkali, and Sapru was Saleem. 2 reels of this version of Mughal-e-Azam was shot. And then came the first twist of our story, the partition of India. So with that, Shiraz Ali decided to shift to Pakistan. At that time, he was constructing 2 studios, famous studio Mahalakshmi and famous studio Tardeo. So the Mahalakshmi studio was being constructed by Shapoorji Pallonji. So Shiraz Ali, since he was shifting to Pakistan, he sold famous studios to Rungtas and Tardeo to Saxerias. And today, the owners are still Rungta family and Saxera family. Now, he didn't have money to pay Shapoorji Pallonji for his dues in construction. So he told Shapoorji Pallonji, I'm making this under production film called Mughal-e-Azam. 2 reels are complete. Maybe you can just showcase this to distributors. You get distributor advances from them. You can complete the film and recover your money. Shapoorji was not into films, but probably, as they say in Hindi, "Bhagte bhoot ki langot bhali." So he had probably no choice but accept the terms, and then he agreed for a swap deal, and that's the way Shapoorji Pallonji came into the picture. But that comes another twist in the story. Chandramohan dies in 1948, and Sapru becomes too old to be cast as Saleem. But that first version of Mughal-e-Azam had to be scrapped. So effectively, whatever investment Shapoorji had made in terms of dues from Shiraz Ali had come to a naught. But Shapoorji was a big fan of Akbar and also of Indo-Mughal architecture. So seeing this, Kiasi suggested that he would restart the film with a new star cast and a much bigger scale than the original version. And he was able to convince Shapoorji. And this was the beginning of a great and unique partnership. Now, why do I call it unique partnership? You have a person in 20s from Uttar Pradesh, or from a village in Uttar Pradesh, who has probably not achieved anything in life. And here's a person in 60s who's from Bombay, from an urban area, who's probably achieved everything in life. They join hand together to make one of the greatest films in Indian cinema. And Kiasif had just done one film by the time. And Mr. Shapoorji had completed n number of projects by that time. But he trusted Kiasif. And the most interesting part is that today you can see young people in 20s convincing investors to put $5 million. But in those times, to put 1 crore into a dream of a young person was very unique. And that too from a different community on which you have no control, because normally people in those days would be within community. So Parsis would partner with Parsis and Muslims would partner with Muslims. So this was absolutely two different personalities who came together for a work of art. And in today's terms, it would have cost several hundred crores. So that is, I think, very amazing to me, how they came into partnership. And what language they would communicate on a complex work as art still wonders, still I'm wondering. He would speak chaste Urdu, and the nearest language Mr. Shapoorji would know was Bombay Hindi. So, but I think probably when great minds and and this mind and brain and soul and heart decide to communicate, language probably doesn't remain a barrier. So in that case, Kiasif started the new version of Mughal-e-Azam. So Mughal-e-Azam 1960, the black and white version. So it was on a grand scale with 2,000 camels, 4,000 horses, and 8,000 jawans, all from Indian Army took participate. So practically, Government of India gave permission to use 2,000 camels and 4,000 horses. Today, you can't get a permission to use one horse. That's the times have changed. But how they manage so many people, and it's a great learning in terms of operation management. And there's no compromise on the production values. Tailors were brought from Delhi, goldsmiths from Hyderabad, and Kolhapur craftsmen designed the crowns, Rajasthan ironsmiths, and the Zardosi work was done from Surat, Khambat, and shoes from Agra. So practically, there's no compromise on any production value. In fact, the song "El Mohammed Zindabad," there are hundreds of soldiers singing that song, Mohabbat Zindabad. And in that song, to get that effect, actually 100 chorus singers were used. Today, you just ask 5 people to sing and you add digitally. But 100 singers actually sung physically in one studio. So arranging those people itself, I think it was a great operational challenge. And for the choice of Anarkali, ads were given in newspapers. Now you can see here, in the vital role of Anarkali, the beauty that shook the Mughal Empire. Only girls between 16 and 22 should read this ad. So I think this kind of a scale was there. And this was in 1952. You can see here, the ad was released in 1952. So film started in 51, but they waited for 1 year for Anarkali. But ultimately, of course, they chose Madhubala. And then there's a famous story that when Kiasif wanted the voice of Tansen, the famous singer in Akbar's court, he wanted only Mr. Bade Ghulam Ali Khan to sing the song, who would never agree to sing for a Bollywood stuff because that was too low from his standards. So ultimately, Mr. Asif was just behind him. So then Mr. Bade Ghulam Ali told Kiasif, Mr. Naushad Ali, the music composer, कि यार क्या आदमी बकवास आदमी यार पीछे पड़ गया है. But then Naushad Sahab told, okay, if you don't want to do it, just tell a high price and then he will say no only. So in those days, Lata Mangeshkar would charge some 4,400, 500 rupees for a song. So Mr. Bade Ghulam Ali Khan quoted 25,000, and Asif said done. And then of course Mr. Bade Ghulam Ali Khan Sahab had no choice, and he sung this famous song and gave the voice of Tansen. We'll come back to Tansen again in the story sometime later. There's an interesting connect. And I just want to show you the canvas of the film. You can see how the shooting must have taken with so many horses and so many jawans. Just a small deco. So there's no animation here. It's all real, and it was shot in Rajasthan. So over the next 5 years, from 1951 to 56, the budget kept on increasing. Shapoorji continued to put money, and the money spent till 56 was 600% of the original budget, and the film still remained incomplete. So by now, the film trade was almost fully convinced that Mughal-e-Azam would be a financial disaster, and Shapoorji would lose a significant amount of his investment, because even after the 600% of the cost, the film remained incomplete. So just imagine, as a financier, how you would feel, when you actually going to put maybe 3-4 lakhs when the recovery of the dues was the question. And this is the next twist in our story. In 1957, good quality color technology was available in India. So K. Asif proposed to shoot the Sheesh Mahal sequence in color. Now, just imagine the implications. This would have meant the increase in cost by 25% from 600%. So you're now almost 800, 900% of your costs, and your recovery was anyway not there. And you have another twist. Indian films are banned in Pakistan in 1956-57. So that means for a film like Mughal-e-Azam, 25% of business is further reduced. So now, as a sane businessman, what would you do? You are not going to recover any of your cost. Your cost is further increasing. Business is down. So a normal businessman would say, cut losses and not go into color sequence. But Shapoorji agreed to fund it. Now, why he wanted to agree, we'll come to later. What was happening in his mind, we'll come to later. But it is, in hindsight, it is because of the Pya Kiya Darna Kiya, whether we agree or not, the film became such a big blockbuster. It is because of that film, it was because of that film in 2004, the idea came to color the entire film, because we had seen the film in color. We knew that whole film will look outstanding. So it is because of that song, the film was made into color. It is because of that song, since the film made into color, it was released in Pakistan in 2006. It was because of that song, people remember the film even till now, a lot of people, and that is why the film became into musical play. So one decision can have such a large impact, but the decision is not so easy. And what was in Shapoorji's mind at that time, we'll come to it towards the end of the presentation. So the color sequence was shot, it became so beautiful, and then K. Asif's vision became even bigger. He said, I'll reshoot the entire film in color. But then Madhuwala's health didn't permit that. Her relationship with Dilip Kumar had gone sour. They wouldn't work together. And a lot, of course, many other operation challenges as well. So that idea was dropped, and K. Asif's dream to see the entire film in color remained unfulfilled. The film was ready for release at a cost of $3 million then, when the expensive films in India were made for $300,000. The film released with 85% in black and white and 15% in color. So just some people have this confusion that only one song was color. That is incorrect. In the original film, in last 3 reels were also shot in color. This was the poster of the 1960 film. And just this was the, I'm just seeing through the film fair, and you can see Y.B. Chavan, the chief minister at that time, Kamal Amrohi, Meena Kamori, Mohammad Rafi, Naushad Saab, and Nilda Didi. Then other people during the premiere. These are pics from the premiere. And yes, you can see Lutan, Raj Kapoor Sahib, and And this was a picture of around Maratha Mandir, the queues around Maratha Mandir, the special ticket that was printed for the film. This was the set. This was the set put at the Maratha Mandir to give a feel of the Mughal Empire. So on the box office, when the Maratha Mandir before the first screening of Maratha Mandir on 5th August 1960, the film was booked for 7 weeks. 7 into 4, 7 or 28 shows for 7 weeks, all were full. And on the Broadway cinema hall, where the film was also released, there was so much traffic that a few days, the Dadar bridge was declared one way. And the song Piya Kya Darna Kya, if you remember Binaka Geet Mala, many of you may remember, again a heritage product. Most of the songs would normally list at Paida number 15, and then Paida number 10, and Paida number 5 and 3, and then 1. Pyar Kya Darna Kya straight came to number 3. That was one of the only songs that on debut listed at number 3. In terms of gold-adjusted inflation, Mughal-e-Azam still remains the number 1 film of all-time box office collection. In gold, if you adjust the gold price, it already comes to 2,500 crores. I think last Akshay Kumar film also didn't do 100 crore also. So that was the power of Mughal-e-Azam. And which was second film? Question for the audience. We'll discuss it later. You can think and let me know the answer by the end of the presentation. But after that, in 1971, K. Asif dies with his wish, with his dream to see the entire film in color not being fulfilled. And you can see here Dilip Saab on the grave of K. Asif. So that was a man dying with his dream. And in 1970s and 80s, the film continued, after his death. In box offices, the film will come and re-release and again go for houseful shows. So basically for 30 years, from 1960 to 1990, till 91 we had the cable TV. For 30 years, the film would come to cinema halls and see for full houses. That was the power of this film. And there was an interesting incident in 1976. During the emergency time, the government forcefully acquired the TV rights for Mughal-e-Azam, the Doordarshan. And it was screened on Doordarshan across the various Doordarshan stations that we had, including Amritsar. And Lahore was very close to Amritsar. So they could receive signal from Amritsar. As you would from Bombay, you could receive signal in Valsad. So in those days. And so similarly in Lahore, people could receive signal from Amritsar. So people from Karachi flew to Lahore to see Mughal-e-Azam on TV in their friends' homes. So all flights from Karachi to Lahore were full. And also all streets that led to Lahore, people came from villages from Lahore into Lahore to see Mughal-e-Azam on TV wherever they could get a chance. So all those streets were choko-jam. That was the power of a film 16 years after release. Because actually film never released in Pakistan in 1960. So that was it. So now we come to the next another story, Mughal-e-Azam in color. So in 2002, the third generation of the Shapoorji Pallonji Mistry family decided to make the film in color. Until that time, Hollywood had colorized films only for a TV release. So coloring a film for TV release and for a theatrical release is quite different. The whole technology is different. So for the theatrical release, the technology was developed in India. And we also hired historians and art conservationists so that the authenticity of the original film is maintained. It's again like a restoration project. And then I just explain you what is the meaning of how the process of colorization takes place. So basically a film comprises of various, as you know, small frames. So this film comprises of approximately 300,000 frames. And these frames could be in bad condition. Like we can see here, there could be scratches, there could be dust. And if you see the old films, they had a lot of shake in that. So that has to be stabilized. So the first process involves scanning 300,000 frames in high resolution, cleaning them up completely, and getting a good quality black and white film. And then what to do, you choose key frames in the film and choose the right colors using historical support and references and make the key frames. So in a film like Mughal-e-Azam, there'll be several hundreds of key frames, and then use the reference of the key frames to color the balance 300,000 frames. And once all the frames are colored, then the entire film of 3 hours 18 minutes, what you do was you do an activity called color balancing. So first scanning and restoration, then coloring, and then color balancing. That's a 3-step process, and it involves large number of computer professionals and technicians to work on the process. So people from in Mumbai and Chennai. So everything was done in India. That was a good part of it. And this is the process, how each key frames is colored. And then you have frames like these. Okay. And just imagine everything was in black and white originally. So this is what the color technology can do it for you. Now you can color the film, you can restore the film, but if you don't do the music and release in theater, it doesn't make sense. So the original composer, late Sri Naushad Ali Sahib, he was kind enough to help us in creating the entire score for Dolby digital release, and along with Uttam Singh. And the film was released in color in CinemaScope, because the earlier format was 35 mm. It had to make a widescreen format. It was made and in Dolby digital sound. And the film in 2004 again ran for 25 weeks in cinema halls. So this actually became probably the first film ever to have a silver jubilee even during its re-release. And so then ultimately the wish of the original maker was fulfilled. Mughal-e-Azam was now fully in color. So the publicity also was redesigned. If you see, the same images are used, but in a more contemporary style to appeal to the audience of 2004. So the whole logo is, the Mughal-e-Azam is redesigned, and it just says now in color with Dolby digital sound. And if you can see the other promotional material also, it looks different. It does not look a 1960 film. It looks like a new film, newly shot film, period film. And the premiere in 2004 was at Eros. That was Maratha Mandir. We did in Eros here. The prince of the film was brought on an elephant, top of the elephant, and this was the entire Eros was decorated. There is a very beautiful Art Deco architecture. So we use that to add to the architecture. And then this was a special tickets were released for as it was done in 1960. And of course, these are the celebrities who were present. This is Dilip Saab's sister and Kiasif's wife. She's a daughter. And Rishi Kapoor represented Prithviraj Kapoor. So this is actually a premiere. You can see now this is Seta Devi, the first wife of Kiasif, her son Ranjit Barot, the drummist and composer. Then he's Shehzad Khan, the son of Ajit Khan, who was in the film. And this is, I told you, I'll come back to Tansen. So he's Mr. Kailash Surendranath, the son of Mr. Surendranath, who acted as Tansen in Mughal-e-Azam. And then there's Boni Kapoor, and they are basically their father. Surinder Kapoor was assistant director in Mughal-e-Azam. So this was one film, probably ever, in which the premiere was attended by the next generation or the next to next generation. And then we had Mr. Raza Murad, who is son of Murad, who played Man Singh in the film. And this is just a clipping of the color version of Mughal-e-Azam.
डरना
So then the film was completed in 2004 and 2006. The Pakistan lifted the ban on Indian films, and Mughal-e-Azam became the cause for that. And for 10 years, Indian films were released in Pakistan, and the floodgates were opened by Mughal-e-Azam. That was another landmark achievement for the film. And then we decided to preserve the script also. We can preserve the script in black and white form, in color form, in original music, in Dolby Digital sound. So we thought the script also should be preserved. So the dialogue book of Mughal-e-Azam was released in 2006 and in a 4-language format. I'll explain you later what are the 4 languages. And then the entire story of the making of the film was released in Hindi through a book called Mughal-e-Azam Noor Nakhat Bhari Dastan. And to be different, there was no coffee table book released till that time in Hindi. So we thought for Mughal-e-Azam, we should do something different. And we released the first coffee table book in Hindi. And that was about the story of the making of Mughal-e-Azam. And then this was the dialogue book. And if you can see, this is a 4-language format. This is English, this is Roman Hindi, this is Devanagari Hindi, and this is Urdu. So if you see the scanned image of this thing, you can see English, it's a silent girl. And you can see Khamosh Ladki in Roman Hindi, then Devanagari Hindi, Khamosh Ladki, and Urdu I cannot read, but those who can read can make out. So this was the way to preserve the script in multiple formats, and so that it caters to different kind of audiences who like Mughal-e-Azam. And to further add value to it, we also had a glossary in the end. So the Urdu words they had the English meaning, but did not have the meaning in Hindi, because Devanagari's script was the exact dialogue. So for example, if you see the word here, Ulfat, it says Prem Sneha in Hindi, and you say is Arabic, and Stream in Strilling, in Hindi, Urdu, and in Marathi, Gujarati, and in many other Indo-European languages like French, you also have the feminine noun and the verb noun. You can say Meri Pustak, you can't say Mera Pustak. So, Ulfat achhi hoti hai, Ulfat acha nahi ho sakta. So it's a strilling, so it's feminine, and the origin is Arabic. Similarly, if you go down, you can see another word like khak. Khak means dhul. Khak mein mila do usko. Dhul mein mila do, it comes from Farsi origin, and it's again a strilling. So that, we try to give the origin and the masculine and feminine words and detail about all the Urdu words. And so that was another way to restore the script. And then this was a Hindi book, coffee table book in Hindi, Mughal-e-Azam Noor Nakhat Bhari Dastan. And then this was the inside of the book. And then the next twist in the story, Mughal-e-Azam, the musical. So this was the first Broadway-style musical from India. It had live singing. And then we also started subtitles in Indian theatre. Till that time, it was not so common. So we made a practice that every show of Mughal-e-Azam will have subtitles in English. The cast and crew comprised 150 plus people. There were 550 costumes designed by Manish Malhotra. Sets were weighing over 15 tons. So the grand canvas. And the play is directed by the legendary director Firoz Abbas Khan. And these are some of the pics of the rehearsals, normally not seen in media. Firoz Abbas Khan directing Anarkali. And then you have Manish Malhotra setting up the costumes. These are the sound and light and projection designers and technicians giving the touches to the show. And now this publicity is very different. It's not filmy, it's theatrical, because this was a musical play. So the entire campaign is very different from the film, but it just shows the scale of Mughal-e-Azam. And these are the few pics from the musical play. Some of you may have seen at NCPA. There's a Qawwali sequence. The court of Akbar. Saleem, this is Akbar and Jodhabai. This is again the premiere invitation card for the premiere of Mughal-e-Azam. The ticket for the 2016 premiere. This was a premiere at NCPA. So we showcased 3 versions of Mughal-e-Azam, 1960 black and white, 2004 color, and the musical play. And the dignitaries at the premiere in Delhi and Mumbai. The cabinet ministers, and then people from the cinema world. Again, the son of Prithviraj Kapoor, actually the grandson of Prithviraj Kapoor. And of course, Irfan Khan is no more today. And this is a glimpse of the musical play. Spectacular.
The actors were singing live, the dances, oh my god, I'm just getting goosebumps thinking about it.
Now we can be proud that we can be at par with Broadway.
As good as any classic opera or classic French theatre.
So engaging, it's so vibrant.
It's a story about love and family and love winning.
For the cause of theatre, for the cause of real art, what has been done is beyond words.
So again, the musical also opened up full houses at the NCPA, and every season was sold out in advance. Then the musical traveled to Delhi, Ahmedabad, outside Mumbai. Then praises from art circles, literary world, political class, bureaucrats. So what I realized that there was the musical play was appreciated across, the audiences, not just about one audience, one class of audience. And the musical play also won Broadway India World Awards. And then it traveled to outside India, to various cities in Asia, Dubai, Kuala Lumpur, Singapore, Muscat, Doha, and it received packed houses everywhere. And then the pandemic strikes and the musical closes down. Now, if you see the Memoirs of Mughal-e-Azam, the color version was made and it completed the wish of Asif. But the musical play was one that completed the wish of Imtiaz Ali Taj. Because Imtiaz Ali Taj had written a play on a grand scale. But in those days, theatre did not have the scale cinema had. So Asif made cinema. Asif could not color it, but the film was colored later. But Imtiaz Ali Taj's version could not be performed in theatre at that time because theatre did not have scale. By 2016, theatre had scale. So his dream also was fulfilled from where we started, 1922. But the food for thought is, in both the cases, in fulfilling both the dreams, the enabler was technology. And the winner was the story. And more precisely, the characters. The success of any entertainment product is basically a good story, well told. So today, if you see the main characters of film, Anarkali, you will find the film was successful in 1960, 2004, and even today as a musical, because that Anarkali is present today also. There's always a young girl who is not happy with the male dominance. There's always a young man who is not happy with authority. That's Saleem. There's always a lady who always is torn between her son and her husband. She does not know what side to take. And there's always a father figure or a boss in the company who knows that there are different aspects of things and which he cannot share with anybody. And he's torn whether to perform this side or that side. He can't speak to anybody because at the top, it's always alone. So those characters are there even today. And that is why a film like Mughal-e-Azam made sense in 1922, a story like Mughal-e-Azam, I would say, in 1922, 1960, 2004, and even 2016, and even later also. But so therefore, the show must go on. So in 2022, Mughal-e-Azam now to recommence performances in India. And 2023, Mughal-e-Azam to be performed in the land of Broadway and the West End. Mughal-e-Azam, the making, the memoirs, and the musical. 1922, 2022, and beyond. The show must go on. So we complete our presentation here. If you want, we can take first Q&A, and then we can come back to that original questions I posed. I'll leave it to Kushu and Farooq and team how to take forward from here.
Thank you so much for that. We just have one question as of now, but I encourage the audience to start posting your questions over here and we can take them
right.
one by one.
Yeah.
But that was a very fascinating presentation. Thank you for taking us through that journey.
Thank you.
So I have to admit that the first time I saw Mughal-e-Azam was actually the play version and not the film version. So I saw it at the
That's nice.
NCPA a couple of years back, and only then did I see the movie. But
Oh, wow.
it's fascinating nevertheless. So the one question that we have as of now is from Vasant. Says that this entire example you said of Shapoorji Pallonji supporting the making of it was a great example of business supporting art. So
Right.
did the company make profits out of it, or was it mainly just to support art, much like a CSR initiative of its time, perhaps?
Okay. Now let me first to that. I'll answer the first question. Before that, answer that question. Why Shapoorji actually put the color sequence, money in color sequence? That'll answer, I think, Vasant's question. Okay. So now please understand, in 1956, K. Asif proposed Shapoorji that we should do the color sequence. He could have very well said no, do it in black and white and close the film. Jitna paisa laga, utna laga hai, and I will cut my losses. But he was to see why Shapoorji actually went to this film. He had made money in textiles, in sugar, in construction, in property. Wherever he put money, he made money. So what does a rich person think when he has conquered all the fields? He has made so much money. What is it? What is it? It is in the mind. And for that, you must understand the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So as we know, the first needs when you have money, you do have food, water needs, and warmth needs. So basically, roti and kapra. And then you move to safety needs, about makan. So when you have roti, kapra, makan, you go to belongings and needs and esteem. But the richest man who has achieved everything, he goes to a stage of self-actualization. And if you read there, what you see, achieving one's full potential, including creative activities. So rich man, after achieving everything, typically go into the world of art. Now, some people may fund painting, some may fund monument, but the real kick for a big man like him would actually come when he becomes a part of the process of creation of art. See, there's one thing, putting money into it, but also being part of the creative process. So actually, Shapoorji would go to studio, see the shoot, see the raw footage, and what you call rushes, and then also and also had a personal relationship with the artists, because he was also going to theater and seeing Prakash Kapoor. So he was part of the creation of the artistic process. The kick when the artistic process word is created and people like it, I can tell you, because I've been part of such a creation, it's amazing. You cannot achieve that kind of kick through money. No money can buy you that kind of enjoyment and pleasure. So it is that joy that Shapoorji was looking. So he probably realized, if I don't fund this thing, I will always regret in my life. I could have made even better work of art, and I compromised through money. So he didn't want to die with the stigma. And secondly, he had given Zaman to K. Asif that I will fund your vision. So K. Asif's vision was to see Mughal-e-Azam, that the color sequence. So he did not again want to go with that guilt that I did not fulfill my Zaman. So that was his personal commitment on business side. But I think he really wanted to do a work of art and get that pleasure of doing a work of art. I think that was his larger agenda to do the film. And it so happened that if your agenda is good, if your purpose is good, it ends up doing so many good things. So to give the numbers, the film costed about 1.5 crore rupees in those times. And within 3 years, it just recovered the 1.5 crores. But the subsequent runs after 1963, 64, 65, 60s, 70s, 80s, and then the box office continued to ring in. That made a lot of money for Shapoorji Pallonji in terms of like a dividends. So so while to answer Vasant's question, it was largely to fulfill his personal agenda of making a great work of art after he had conquered so many fields: construction, property, sugar, textile, and investments. He wanted to conquer the world of art. So that was his agenda. But it also, as I say, whatever Shapoorji would turn into gold. So it happened for Mughal-e-Azam also. So that I think answers my Vasant's question, that ultimately Shapoorji ended up making money in the film also.
Thank you for that. So, a somewhat associated question. Now, this was something that you told us that many of us did not know. Are there any other secrets, so to say, from the making of the movie that you would like to share with us? This is a question from Aarti.
Okay. Okay. Now, I will. Okay, there is another thing I would like to imagine here. Okay. Let me tell you some secret. If you really want to know the secret, it will take 2 minutes time. Is that fine with you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay. So basically, the film was had a different interval. If you see in the film, just before the interval, the song is there, Pyar Ke Dana Kya. Actually, this song was after the interval originally. Okay. And Kia Sif realized that if the film ends with a black and white after the interval, and then has the color sequence, it not have the impact. He wanted to have a color sequence for the commercial reasons, not for creative reasons. He shifted for commercial reasons the color sequence to before interval, so that when people come out of the interval, they're so mismatched with the song. The film will have a super duper, what do you call, the word of mouth. And it was only a super duper word of mouth that could return Shapoorji's investment into the film. So he wanted to have a phenomenal word of mouth, so that everybody had to see the film. So he shifted, and in a way that was a creative compromise. You will see here, to change the interval. But he said, it is more important also for me to give back Shapoorji Pallonji's money, the money they have invested in the color sequence in the film. So if you can see, now I'll show you I will now show you where the original interval was. Okay. Just see the sequence now. This is a sequence where there's a split between Saleem and Anarkali for the first, and just see how the music moves. It's a classic interval point, but that was changed subsequently.
तुम मेरी अनारकली नहीं।
हाँ शहजादे, मैं आपकी वो अनारकली नहीं।
यकीनन नहीं। अकबर की बुज़दिल लौंडी तो सलीम की महबूबा नहीं। तो एक झूठी कसम थी जो मेरा ईमान बदल गई। तो एक शर्मनाक बदनामी का वो दाग थी जो मेरे दामन पर लगा और धुल गई। जुम्बिश मकुन होशियार बाज।
So this was the classic interval point where the split, and this was there the original interval, and then the next sequence doesn't have any connection. So this was after the interval. Now I will show you where actually the interval was now. So now the color sequence was before the interval.
हिंदुस्तान की तकदीर नहीं बदल सकती।
तकदीरें बदल जाती हैं, जमाना बदल जाता है, मुल्कों की तारीख बदल जाती है, शहंशाह बदल जाते हैं, मगर इस बदलती हुई दुनिया में मोहब्बत जिस इंसान का दामन थाम लेती है, वो इंसान नहीं बदलता।
मगर तुझे बदलना होगा सलीम, तुझे बदलना होगा।
जिस बाप का ये मंसूबा।
Now you can see the shoe and shoe sequence is connected. So these two reels are together actually earlier, but later there's an interval between these two things, and the color sequence was shifted before the interval. So when people come out of the interval, they're completely mesmerized with the song, and it was just people who always say the film is outstanding. There was nobody who would say the film is bad. So that was a commercial reason for which K. Asif changed his original plan so that Shapoorji could get back his money. And this is not actually documented anywhere. Just from our memoirs and my own study, I found out, and this I think what I thought will be interesting to share with the audience here.
Really, it's really interesting to know. And the next question from the audience is again connected to what you just showed us.
Yeah.
One of the things that really wows you when you see it in color is the exuberance of the sets.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And specifically the Sheesh Mahal set.
Yeah.
So wasn't there any intention to preserve that after the movie was released, kind of like a museum of sorts?
So yes, it was released. This was actually kept the set was kept for quite some time. It was in Mohan Studios in Andheri, East. Actually, I'm also right now in Nandiri East right now, so very close to my office, and it was preserved for quite some time. And people used to come to Bombay as a tourist spot. And I think for heritage people, heritage tours, if Khaki tours was there, it would have become one of the center of attraction among the audiences. And that was actually kept for quite 2-3 years, I think, maybe for 3 years. And then subsequently, we were, I think, only tenant in that premises. Saleem was tenant in that premises. Normally, Shapoorji Pallonji is owner, landlord. But so it was kept for some time, 3 years. And after that, it was ultimately, because we were only tenant there. So we had to, vacate the premises. And also, that would interest people here, that after the film was released in Kala Ghoda, there was this exhibition of all the, the spears and the costumes that were used in the cinema. And they were all sort of displayed there. And there was a big exhibition, and people loved the exhibition. So I think that was another thing that people would, I actually have a picture of that. I probably forgot to put the picture here, but I have a picture of people watching the exhibition of the artifacts and the various properties used in the production of Mughal-e-Azam. So yes, that was done to an extent. It was possible. And but the entire set, of course, could not be presumed because the property would not belong to Shapoorji Pallonji.
It's interesting to know about the Kala Ghoda bit, especially. Speaking of the release, it was fascinating to see the pictures that you showed us of Maratha Mandir. So, Bharat's query is, why was Maratha Mandir not selected for the re-release?
We had selected Maratha Mandir, but what happened that, we had talked to the original guy, but he had committed, on that day, there were 4 films released. Vees Dara, Shah Rukh Khan, Mughal-e-Azam, Dilip Kumar, and Akshay Kumar's Aitraz and Nach of Abhishek Bachchan. So there were a lot of fights for cinema halls. So he did want to release there, but then because he had a prior long-term agreement with the distributor there, that he will release his film will get priority. So that's why, and we are not regular distributors. We are one of one film only. But then we ultimately decided to do it in Eros. And also from traffic management point of view, Eros was better than Maratha Mandir. Nowadays it's difficult to manage traffic in Maratha Mandir. So we realized that, it'll be for current audiences. Now, people also tell you should do in somewhere in Juhu because the entire industry is there. But we said, no, we will do it in Eros in a classical Art Deco kind of theater just to give a feel of Mughal-e-Azam. So that's why we chose Eros for those reasons, basically. And getting elephant was difficult, obviously, in Maratha Mandir. Easier to get in Eros.
Another point that you mentioned that was quite interesting was that the film actually loaned quite a bit of stuff from the Indian Army.
Yeah.
Are there any subsequent movies where the subsequent movies that are not based on the army, where the army contributed in such a way?
See, I personally feel nobody would have been able to afford so many camels and so many horses. Okay, so it was not even financially viable. But I think the support of army must have been there in so many films like Hakikat and other. I think many films, like a lot of films are made on India Academy and in 80s also and 90s also. So they must have taken support of army for shooting the army, but not like horses, camels, and jawans. They must have provided infrastructure support to shoot and give the realistic feel to the cinema. That must have been there, but unlikely that the jawans and other things must have been used, and at least I'm not aware of. So yeah.
And of course, a lot of compliments coming in, and we can send you a compilation of all of these compliments. We actually have a member of the audience who was also a part of the musical.
Oh wow, so nice! And
as the Kathak dancer.
Oh wow! So hi, who is it?
This is Boli.
Okay, hi Boli. Oh, very nice to hear. Oh wow, I know her. Okay, good. And Shabana, would you like to say hi to the audience? Shabana? And Zia is Kiasif's grandson, and he also is now in the industry. So if they would like to say hi to audience, and Mr. Cookie, if you would like to from Lahore, if you would like to say hi to the audience in the chat box, that would be interesting.
Well, I'm one of the luckiest ones among this generation who has literally witnessed most of the shooting Mughal.
Hello.
I have spent my childhood with I don't name. Why Shapoorji had so much of confidence in him to continue to finance in. There was a stage when and would suggest and advise and do some but that the money will go waste, and so much so that Sohrab Modi had also an opportunity to displace of Mr. K. Asif as a director. Mr. K. Asif as a director. The only reply to all these questions, Shapoorji said, he is an honest man. He does not own even a car of his own. He borrows from somebody to even buy a cigarette. So all that money, whatever is being given in, it goes to the film. I remember I was a child. It was an Eid day, and Shapoorji visited with a bag of gold coins for Eid to K. Asif Saab, and Asif Saab said, "Thank you very much. The money should go to the project." He took one coin only. So that kind of impression was created, and that kind of personality was a wide vision of Shapoorji, who had a vision of not only picking up right kind of people for his business, but also had the vision to trust to whom he can trust. I've got a few more points which, if you allow, you've got time, I can narrate a few more things. Mr. K. Asif Saab was a man of perfection. There was a shot in which Dilip Kumar walks in to the set, and Asif Saab was not satisfied. That shot was done almost about 90 times that evening, and finally Dilip Kumar escaped from the back door because he said, "Asif will not be satisfied even the whole night if I work." So and nobody had the guts to take a reshoot sort of a shot of Dilip Kumar, and he took 90 reshots, and I am a witness to that. So he was a man of perfection. He wanted everything to be very perfect. And his determination, I have heard this story from my grandmother and grandfather. His father was a lieutenant doctor in British Army in the veterinary side. They had in Ottawa a well in the house. And he used to use his elder brother Masood Karim and Asif Karim used to do the riding in that area. And Mr. Fazal Karim, Dr. Fazal Karim asked Asif to jump over that well. And he was just about 9 or 10 years old. He was reluctant to jump over that. But till he literally jumped over the well, his father did not let him go. So that kind of determination had come in K. Asif himself. And as you were mentioning, Deepesh, about the when the movie was released, and in Lahore we could catch the signals from Amritsar. There was the day of release, specially a flight with PIA was launched from Karachi to Lahore so that people could come and see the opening day of that movie. It was as popular in Pakistan as it is in India. Rather, I would say it is more popular because people could understand the language Urdu with perfection. I would say that the relaunch, I really appreciate the coloring done by Shapoorji and the efforts being put in by Deepesh it is hats off to you. It is that you are the one who literally, brought that vision of thinking and imagination of Asif into coloring, which is going to be always in rest of the world. Whenever there is a talk about any great movie, it is Mughal-e-Azam, and you have given that life. Really salutes to you as well.
Yeah.
And I wish that my son, whose name is Asif, and I called his name Asif because of great Asif Saab, and now Zia, his grandson, both the grandsons, Asif has launched film making in short films. He started already, and Zia is working there. I wish both of them best of luck, and I hope that even if they can reach the imagination and vision of Asif, even in a 1%, will be a great work for them. Thank you.
Yeah. So just to add what Cookies was saying, in the Parsi community, Shapoorji would say, a lot of people would say that Khaki Asif is mad and he's taking money away from you in the back door. So Shapoorji would say, Asif gando che, but imandar pan che. So he's a mad person, but also very honest man. And he's a gando che, but beiman nathi. Asif gando che, but beiman nathi. So that was what a lot of Parsi people have told me, what Shapoorji said about Asif. Yeah, Rohan.
So, some of the viewers are also interested to know when the next leg of the theatrical play is going to be released. Yeah,
so it's most probably in October, around Diwali. I think we should take out a month's time to work out, because when you restart a musical play, it's almost like starting it again. The entire cast is brought, and rehearsal artists, they have not done rehearsal for 2.5 years. So a lot of work is required. So I think within a month, I think we should close the operational challenges, and then we'll announce the dates. So most probably it will be in October, 99%.
That's good to know.
I'll request Deepesh, if you could kindly bring the theatre to Pakistan also, because we've got great right like you have on Asif, and it is all the Pakistanis have got a great right. He belongs to Lahore, though he was born in Ottawa, but he belongs to Lahore.
Hope we can see that day. I really wish we can see that day.
If you will bring that, you will change the history in Pakistan theatre as well, because we at the moment are far behind what can be done in theatre.
If Mughal-e-Azam can perform in Lahore, it not just change the history, it also change the geography.
Well,
I hope you got the message.
let us hope, and let you please kindly give us the opportunity. We will try to come up to your standard.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Rohan.
Yeah, so I think that's it for the questions. Of compliments, there are many. As I said, I can compile all of them and we can set them up.
Thank you. So nice of you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, if there are no more questions, we can bring the session to a close, unless there's something else that you would like to share.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people from US also there. The same message I can say Viral Parikh here there from US, and people from Canada also here. So that's say my hello to everybody. People from London is there, Azad is there. So a lot of people from different parts of world are here to do this thing. But yeah, so and for me, I'm so fortunate that I've been part of the coloring process, the writing of preserving the scripts, the release of coffee table book, and the musical play. So I've been very fortunate to have worked on such a wonderful piece of art without actually being an artist. I'm rather an engineer and MBA, but I've been fortunate to work on these projects. And for me, actually, each of them is a project of conservation. I see all of them as a work of conservation, of keeping the history alive even to today's generation. Yeah.
All right. And so if, there are no more questions, so we can bring the session to a close then.
Yeah, somebody wanted to know about Ganga Jamna. So Ganga Jamna was another film that was financed by Shapoorji Pallonji, and that also happens to be the second largest box office grosser till date in terms of inflation, gold-related inflation. So the first two films actually in box office were financed by a person who's not from film industry. That is any of this industry. What people normally say, the film industry hai, ajeebo garib industry hai, ajeeb log aate hain, garib hoke jate hain. So for Shapoorji, it hasn't been ajeebo garib industry. He's been so fortunate to make money in both the ventures.
So one last question that's just come in from Alpana. So I'll just read it out verbatim. So she says, how is the royalty scenario then and now when it comes to such a creation? I think it has to do with how royalty is portrayed in such movies and the grandeur that is employed in it. I didn't quite get it, but just reading it out verbatim to you.
Yeah. So see, in those days, basically film production was normally not financed by studios. It was by investors like Shapoorji. And the ROI would happen over a large amount of period, because you have to release prints, you invest in prints, so the royalties would come over a larger period. Today, it's a question of 3 years of effort and 3 days of collection, basically. So first 3 days decide your collection. So the time has come very small, but of course at the same time you have multiple sources. You have OTT, you have satellite rights, you have digital rights, you have got cinema halls, overseas, music rights. So you have multiple sources of revenue also. So, in that sense, the two are different. And the life cycle of the product has come down significantly. Today, you can't expect a product to give royalties for 20, 30 years. I mean, keeping aside people like Lagan or something, Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham, but very few films can give royalties for so many years. So that, I think, is a big change in the scenario. And of course, now your sequel is another source of royalty. So you can have a sequel of a successful film also, which was not a thing of in those times. But actually, since you asked this question, in those days, Dilip Kumar actually was an employee he was actually get salary from Sterling Investment. So he was on a monthly salary basis. Today, artists work on a contract basis. So that time, Dilip Kumar, Prithviraj Kapoor, and on a salary for 9 years, they were paid monthly salaries. So like a studio system. That was the concept in those days. Yeah.
All right. On that note, this very memorable session comes to an end. Thank you so much, Deepesh, for telling us so much about a legendary film. Yeah. And thank you everybody else also who also spoke. We learned a lot, and for people of my generation and for those of subsequent generations, it's great to know so much about such a watershed moment in Indian cinema.
Yeah.
Thank you to the audience for joining us on a Saturday evening. We hope to see all of you again very soon for another Khaki event.
Yeah, thank you, audience, for a wonderful session and great support, and also to Khaki for organizing this super event. Many thanks.